Look, dude, there's an ugliness that's out there right now where, there's certain podcasts out there that if you're a racist, if you're an anti-Semite.
He spent 15 years doing comedy before most people knew his name. He got booed off a stage in Philadelphia for 12 straight minutes and turned it into the greatest moment of his career. He said things on stage that should have ended him multiple times and instead became one of the most respected comedians alive. Rolling Stone named him one of the 50 greatest stand-up comedians of all time. He sold out Fenway Park. He made his Broadway debut at 56 years old, and he did all of it without ever once pretending to be someone he wasn't. This is the rise and the falls of Bill Burr, Section A. Here's how they started. Canton, Massachusetts, 1968. William Frederick Burr is born into a pretty standard New England household. His father was a dentist, his mother was a nurse. He grew up Catholic, went to Canton High School, bounced around college, started at North Carolina State, transferred to Emerson College in Boston, graduated in 1993 with a degree in communications. Before comedy, he worked in warehouses, and he's talked about it in interviews with genuine affection, the freedom of it, the simplicity. If his boss gave him a hard time, he'd just climb on a forklift and drive away. That guy, that working class, no nonsense, zero tolerance for pretension guy, never really left. Everything that makes Bill Burr funny comes from that version of him. He did his first open mic on March 2nd, 1992. He was 23 years old. Now think about that for a second. 1992. No YouTube, no podcasts, no Instagram to grow a following. If you wanted to become a comedian, there was exactly one way. Get on stage, night after night, in clubs that smelled like beer and bad decisions, and figure it out in real time. That's what he did. In 1994, he moved to New York City. 8 months later, he moved to LA because that's where the TV work was. He got small roles. Townies in 1996. Two Guys and a Girl in 1998. Law and Order, Criminal Intent in 2002. Nothing career. Defining. He was a working actor, trying to get enough traction to keep doing what he actually loved, which was stand-up. He came back to New York in 1999, specifically to refocus on comedy. And that decision to prioritize the craft over the commercial stuff is one of the things that separates Bill Burr from people who disappeared. The early 2000s started to change things. 2000 Showtime at the Apollo. 2003 Comedy Central presents his first real national television exposure. 2004 Chappelle's Show. Dave Chappelle was the hottest thing in comedy at that moment, and having Burr appear in multiple sketches put him in front of a massive audience. 2005 HBO One Night Stand special. For a stand-up comedian in that era, getting an HBO special was the equivalent of a stamp of approval from the institution of comedy itself. He was building, slow and steady, but he was building. And then came the night that everything changed. September 2006, the Susquehanna Bank Center, East Rutherford, New Jersey. Burr was part of the Opie and Anthony Traveling Virus Comedy Tour, a big outdoor show. Thousands of people, massive lineup of comedians. And the crowd, they were brutal. They'd been drinking all day. They were booing everyone. Every comedian who walked out there got mercilessly torn apart. By the time Burr took the stage, the crowd was practically feral. Now here's where most comedians do one of two things: push through their material and take the beating, or bomb and walk off. Bill Burr did something entirely different. He abandoned his entire set. For 12 straight minutes, he didn't tell a single planned joke. He just talked directly to the crowd, combative, profane, relentless, and proceeded to roast the entire city of Philadelphia by name. The people, the history, the sports teams, all of it. The crowd, which had been trying to destroy him, slowly started to turn. By the end, he got a standing ovation. The Huffington Post later called it a watershed moment in the history of comedy. And they weren't wrong, because that night, a night that should have been a disaster, became a legend. The clip circulated online. Other comedians talked about it. Comedy fans talked about it. It proved something about Bill Burr that his fans already suspected. He doesn't run from a fight. He runs toward it. Section B. Why it mattered in comedy history. Here's what most people miss about Bill Burr's story. The Philadelphia rant didn't just make him famous. It revealed what kind of comedian he was going to be. Because the thing that saved him that night wasn't technique or timing. It was authenticity. He was genuinely annoyed. He genuinely didn't care if they liked him. And they sensed it and loved him for it. That authenticity is exactly what made the next decade of his career both explosive and dangerous. Starting in 2007, he launched the Monday Morning Podcast. Weekly, unedited, unfiltered, one man talking into a microphone about sports, life, relationships, and whatever was on his mind. No PR filter. No script. In the early days, podcasting was still fringe. Nobody knew it would become the dominant media format of the next decade. But Burr was there from the beginning, and his audience grew with the medium. By 2012, he and comedian Al Madrigal co-founded All Things Comedy, an artist-owned podcast network. Let that sink in. These were comedians building their own infrastructure, owning their own content. Years before that, became the standard play for every creator. 2012 also brought his Netflix special You People Are All the Same, which made history as the first stand-up special to premiere exclusively on Netflix. Not on HBO, not on Comedy Central. On this streaming platform that people were still treating as a DVD mail service, Burr saw where things were going before most of the industry did. But here's where the falls start coming in. Because Bill Burr never changed his comedy. And comedy was changing fast. His specials tackled gender relations, feminism, political correctness, race, all the topics that were becoming flashpoints in culture. And he didn't tiptoe. He barreled in. I'm Sorry You Feel That Way in 2014. Walk Your Way Out in 2017. Paper Tiger in 2019, which earned him a Grammy nomination. Every single one of these specials generated backlash. Think pieces, Twitter campaigns, accusations that he'd gone too far, that his humor was harmful, that he needed to evolve. He did not evolve. Not in the way people demanded. And here's the genuinely complicated part of his story, the thing that's worth sitting with. Some of the criticism was fair. There were jokes that landed wrong. There were moments where the point got lost in the delivery, where what he was going for and what people heard were genuinely different things. But there's a separate question, which is whether a comedian should sand down their voice because enough people are uncomfortable. Burr's answer consistently was no. He took the hits. He lost some fans. He gained others. He kept going. And the industry kept rewarding him for it, not because they agreed with everything he said, but because they recognized that he was real. He wasn't performing a version of himself designed to please everyone. In a world full of comedians desperately calculating their public image, that made him stand out. Then came 2020, and one of the most watched and most criticized moments of his career. October 3rd, 2020, he hosted Saturday Night Live. The opening monologue was, there's no other word for it, audacious. He didn't thank the audience. He didn't do safe crowd-pleasing material. He opened by going after white women, then went after white men, then went after the Catholic Church. He made jokes about COVID. He made jokes about cancel culture. He did all of it in roughly 8 minutes. Reviews were split right down the middle. Half the internet thought it was one of the boldest SNL monologues in years. The other half thought it was irresponsible and reckless. The New York Times, Variety, The Atlantic. Everyone had a hot take, but here's what the numbers said. It was one of the most watched SNL monologues that entire season. The audience voted with their clicks, and they wanted more. Section C. How one bizarre night changed everything. Here's the thing about spending 30 years refusing to compromise. Eventually, the culture catches up to you, not in the sense that everyone agrees with you, but in the sense that people, all kinds of people, across different political backgrounds and comedy tastes, start to recognize that you've been consistent, that you're not performing, that what you see is what you get. And by the early 2000s, that consistency had turned Bill Burr into something rare in modern entertainment, a universally respected figure in a world that can't agree on anything. Let's run the scoreboard on what happened after everyone predicted his relevance would expire. 2021 F is for Family, the animated Netflix series he created, voiced, and executive produced, ended its run after 6 acclaimed seasons. He wrote a show based on his own childhood, and it lasted 6 years on the biggest streaming platform in the world. 2022, he became the first comedian to ever perform at Fenway Park in Boston. 35,000 people. His hometown, the field where the Red Sox play. For a stand-up comedian, that is not something that has ever happened before or since. 2022, he released Live at Red Rocks on Netflix. Red Rocks Amphitheater, one of the most iconic performance venues in the world. Another sellout. 2023, he directed, co-wrote, and starred in Old Dads on Netflix. Divided critics. His fans loved it. He didn't care. 2024, he played John F. Kennedy in the Netflix comedy film Unfrosted. Critics specifically praised his performance. Bill Burr, the warehouse worker from Canton, Massachusetts, playing a president. 2024, he hosted SNL for the second time. The same show. 5 years after his controversial first monologue, 2024, he performed for over 60,000 people at Gillette Stadium during the ceremony, honoring Tom Brady. The biggest stadium in New England, his people. And then 2025, the moment that really stopped people in their tracks. Bill Burr made his Broadway debut. At 56 years old, he stepped onto a Broadway stage in a revival of Glengarry Glen Ross David Mamet's Pulitzer Prize-winning play about real estate salesmen alongside Kieran Culkin and Bob Odenkirk. Two of the most respected actors in the business right now. Reviews came in, and they were genuinely positive. Not pretty good for a comedian positive. Actually positive. Critics said he held his own on one of the most demanding theatrical stages in the world. The guy who worked in warehouses, who got booed in Philadelphia, who got called offensive, problematic, past his expiration date. That guy is on Broadway getting good reviews in a Pulitzer Prize-winning play. Oh, and in February 2025, he dropped his 8th stand-up special, Drop Dead Years, on Hulu. 8 specials. 3 decades. Still doing it. And still saying exactly what he thinks. In January 2025, he appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live and shouted support for Luigi Mangione, the man charged with killing a health insurance CEO in front of a live television audience. On purpose, knowing exactly what he was doing. Was it controversial? Absolutely. Did it make headlines? Of course. Will it hurt his career? His career has survived everything for 30 years. The answer is probably no. Because at this point, Bill Burr saying controversial things isn't a liability. It's the whole deal. It's why people show up. So what's the actual lesson of Bill Burr's story? It's not be offensive and you'll be fine. That's not it. It's about the relationship between authenticity and longevity. Most careers in entertainment are built on calculated image management. You figure out what the audience wants, you give it to them, you protect the brand. It works for a while. And then, the market shifts. The audience moves on. And you're scrambling to reinvent yourself. Bill Burr never had an image to manage because he never created one. He just showed up, said what he thought, did the work, and let people decide. The result is a career that is now in its 4th decade and shows no signs of stopping. He's not beloved by everyone. He's not trying to be. He's respected by almost everyone, even people who disagree with him because they can see that he's genuine. In 2017, Rolling Stone put him at number 17 on their list of the 50 greatest stand-up comedians of all time. In a list that includes Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock, people who defined the art form. Bill Burr is on that list. The man who almost got destroyed in Philadelphia in 2006. The man who couldn't get anyone to watch him for 15 years. That's the rise of Bill Burr. And the falls? Every single one of them was just a detour on the way up.